the verse for October that we're doing is, one of the verses is Psalm 91:11. For he shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee in all thy ways. I have several other verses listed in the Facebook post and in the email that have to do with angels. I like all of them. It was hard to make a decision, so I might use different ones in different layouts, but for tonight, I'm going to use this one. I will list the other ones, the pictures again, just in case you want to think through that. But we're going to do an angel layout, and this idea for the layout comes from a post I saw by Mary Ellen Sharp, and she had made a little angel using the snowflake punch. And I thought, oh, that is so cute. And then at the same time, the Angel Border Maker cartridge was out, and she had posted that because she had thought those would go well together, and I thought, what a great idea. Thank you so much, Mary Ellen, for thinking that through. In the Magic of Christmas playbook, there's also a layout that uses that Angel Border Maker cartridge, and it uses a circle with one of the angel embellishments, but I thought we would use the snowflake one for this layout. But I'll give you the sizes for this too if you want to use that instead, or if you have some angel stickers or something else that you would rather do. So for this layout, you're going to have several layers. You can use whole sheets of paper, but I cut the middle out of most of mine. So you start with a 12 by 12, and then you use an 11.5 by 11.5. And I'm going to use repositionable for all of this just because I want to make sure it goes together just without, in case I mess it up, I can take it apart again. Making sure I'm recording. Yep, okay. This late at night, you never know. So, sorry it is so late. We had a busy weekend with a wedding celebration, and it was wonderful. The Lord was so nice to let us be able to do that, but it has been busy. So then this is the 12 by 12, and then I cut the middle out of the 11 by 11, and boy, it just decided to stick right on there. Okay, let's try that again. I'm going to try and get that on there. You should have about a 1/4 of an inch from each side once you get it stuck down. Now I am using my mat just to kind of make sure my placement is pretty good. It won't be exact, but it's a good start. That is one problem with using frames, is that they kind of have a mind of their own sometimes and stick where they want to stick. So, and I went a little crazy with the repositionable tape as well. Just sticking. But that's pretty good there. So that's the second layer, which is the 11.5 by 11.5. And I added measurements in the picture. Some of them I will make some adjustments that I might tell you later. Okay, then the third layer, this is the yellow in the picture, but I'm using the molten gold paper. And you can see I've cut a hole out of it because I wanted to use that for something else, but it's going to be covered up. So I'm going to add more repositionable tape on the edges. I like to add it when I've cut the middle out. I like to add it to the frame instead of the back of the paper. That way I don't end up with tape on the back side. It's not stuck to anything. So I'm going to stick this down, also about a 1/4 inch from the second layer and a 1/2 inch from the first layer. Just point straight and get in there. And if you watch carefully, you'll see a piece of paper from the new Baked with Love. It's this plaid paper. I liked that. And there's a piece of paper that I'm using for the angel that's from the new Secret Box number 4. And that's close enough there. So the last part, the last layer is an 8.5 by 8.5. And you can see I cut that out of the base piece. So I'm going to stick that on, and I can stick that on kind of around the edges because it's going to be over a big expanse. And it says to put that halfway. But before I do that, I'm going to add some of the little angels that I made with the Border Maker cartridge. I punched out a 12-inch strip, and then I cut it into groups of 3 and 8. Each strip gives you one group of 5, 2 groups of 3, and then a couple of leftovers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of position this to where the angels are touching the edge of the gold layer here. And that way I have it the right amount here. So if we have 8.5, that takes us, trying to see how much I need here and here. 10 and 2 maybe. Okay, 2 1/4 and 10 1/4. And then if I do that, I can scoot this over just a little bit to about 1 inch from the edge. Oops. Then I'll add the angels, and I'm going to stick the wings right here. I'm going to do 1 at 3. Let's go over just even a little bit more. And another group of 3. And in the original page I gave you, it just has 1 here, 1 at 3, and 1 at 9. But I thought it looked kind of bare in the middle here, so I thought I would add, and it also had, a group of 5 at the top, kind of centered up here. That was the original design, and this design came, like I said, from the Magic of Christmas playbook. You can get that digitally if you want it. I don't know if the paper copy is sold out, but then I thought it looked a little bare, having just this in the middle on. So let me see where I have another group of 3 here. There they are. So I'm going to add those right in the middle at 6 inches. And I thought that looked nicer, and then I'm going to add another group of 5 at the bottom. So that's all the angels from the Border Maker cartridge. Now, in here, they added 4 photos that are 4 inch. I cut 4 by 4 pieces. I'm going to stick them down. You give yourself a little room all the way around the outside. clattering, sorry about that. With a little gap in between your squares. And I will adjust a little bit for my margins once I get all of this in. So this one can go here. I like that one better there. And this one can go here. Close enough. You're not going to see much of this. I'm going to actually show you this way. This is the way that the layout was done, and it had a little circle with a little angel embellishment in here. And I used the medium-sized circle with the red blade for the blue, the green blade for the checked, and the red, green, and then blue for the middle gold one. And you would add that down here at the edge. Yeah, something about that's not as where seemed to go earlier, but it doesn't matter because you are going to cover that up with a photo. I'm going to switch this out like this. I like that better. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, you're going to have that covered with a photo at some point, but just looking at it, I like the lines to line up a little bit better. And that's just a cookie thing, not real important. When you cut your paper, the pattern may not be exact, but that's close enough. So if you were going to just use this and have your angel here, you would have your fourth picture here and add your title up here. I'm going to scoot these angels over just a little bit so you can see them. There we go. So here's the verse. Let me scoot these angels down just a hair. Always good to have your repositionable tape. So this will be like that. And that way you have your verse there, kind of like your title. And I'm going to go ahead and stick part of that down. I've got the foam tape. We do not have that, unfortunately, anymore. But I'm using what I have still. This can move over back a little bit. Okay, so this is what you would have. I also thought it would be nice to have maybe a ring around this part here, and I've misplaced it. I may add that later whenever you see the finished layout and you say, that's what she was doing. But for right now, we're going to leave that right like that because I want to show you this angel that Mary Ellen Sharp made. And I'm going to take this off because I want to have a nice place to put my angel. I like the idea of having a square to go with it. And I'm going to kind of see what matches up the best way. Like I said, it's not that important. I don't know why. I'm evidently too tired. I'm making too much of a deal of it. But I'm going to stick this little frame out on. I cut it with a 1/4 inch frame. And whenever I'm putting the tape in it, one of the corners is already coming. I cut it real close and it's like, nope, don't like that. But that's okay. We're gonna just stick it down and nobody will know but you and me. And that's, instead of a 4-inch square, I'm having a 4-inch frame. You do not have to do that, but I just thought it would be kind of nice to keep that grid look going on around the, in this big blue area. Like I said, I pulled that one too hard when I was taping it, so it came loose. But with the tape, I'm just sticking it down. So I want to put that angel here. So let me show you what I did for the angel. And I'm going to scoot this out of the way for a moment. I'm going to use two 4x4 squares, whatever you're making your angel out of. She had like a blue dress, and then wings, and then a face and a bow. I thought it was just charming. But this, what I'm going to do is a frame punch. It has these lines. You're going to line the edges of that 4-inch square. And she used 6x6, but she suggested using a 4-inch for just a smaller angel. So I've punched it once, then I'm going to turn it to the next side, lining those edges up again on those silver lines. So that's 2 sides. That's what I've done here. That's going to be our angel's body. I'm going to set that aside for a minute and show you. But I'm going to continue punching the other 4 sides to make the wings. Show you how to make the wings. This particular punch, if you do not empty it, you will end up with getting your paper stuck a little bit. But it comes loose pretty easy. You'll have lots of nice snowflakes for something else. Okay, so you end up with a sort of a square that looks like that. And what you're going to do for the wings is just cut it in half. It's about 1 3/4 inch on each side. Let's see, make sure I get this the right way. Definitely too tired to think about this. Okay, I want to do it that way. So, kind of where it looks like a cross on your thing, and the edges of your piece are kind of at 3/4 inch, all the way on the left, the right here, and then 3/4 on this side. And you're basically cutting between these groups, so you'll end up with 2 halves. And then you're going to cut one of these, also lining it up, the edges at 3/4 inch on each side, and then cut in between there. And these are going to be your wings. So I've already cut some of those, and I'll put those down in a minute. But let me finish up with the body. Like I said, you only cut 2 sides for the body. And that's why we need 2 squares. Then you're going to take, and I've added some foam squares, so I'm going to turn it over to cut, because I want to make sure that this kind of stands out from the wings. But you'll line up your edges. Once you've punched 2 of these, the square edges, you're going to line up at the 1-inch mark. You trim that off on one side, then line the other side up at 1, and cut that off, and I was able to cut through my foam squares. So that gives you the angel's body. All right, so we're going to add that. I'm going to bring it back, and I've kind of inked it because I want it to really sparkle with I used the gold shimmer pen. Definitely too picky for this time of night. Okay, so I want to put the body on first. So I'm going to stick that with the foam squares, but not press it down very hard, because I don't want it to be too stuck, because I want to put the wings on underneath. And I'm going to just use the tape to stick those on. I'm not going to use the foam squares. And I'm going to put them underneath like this. So you have a nice ruffly edge all the way around. And like I said, don't press it down too hard. But that way you have your little wings. And then I have a face, and this I used the smallest circle with the red blade, and I added little eyes and a mouth, and I used a sponge with just a little marker on it to give her some cheeks. So I'm going to add her face on here. And you could do a little smaller, you could do a green. I just thought this was a good size. And I wanted her to have a halo, so I used the medium sized, and I used the green blade, the blue blade first, and then the green blade. And I'm going to add that underneath her. Whoops. Thankfully, I don't need that right now. But I'm going to add this underneath to kind of give her a halo. And then I tried some different punches. You could use a heart, you could use one of your snowflakes, but I really liked her idea of the bow. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a little bow, and I punched this using the Christmas bow border punch. And it has nice little bows, and I made a little chain, and I just cut one off. So I've got more left. So I'm going to add her little bow right there. And there you go. So that gives you your little angel. I'm going to go ahead and stick this down. And I believe that is our layout. Make sure I have not forgotten anything. In the directions, they say you can use, laser borders. You can use whatever embellishments. That's part of the fun of making these together. Is I get to see all kinds of versions. And so I can't wait to see yours. And I look forward to seeing you Wednesday if you're coming to my house instead of Tuesday. And I pray that you have a wonderful day tomorrow, and see you soon. Thank you.